Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Green Lantern Rayner Compendium from DC Comics. So, let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So here we have the latest compendium from DC Comics. You have Green Lantern Rayner Rising Compendium. Ron Marz, Darryl Banks, Romeo Tanghal, and Steve Mattson. And here you have this wonderful cover by Darryl Banks, who was, of course, the big artist on this book. And this has been previously released in 2 trade paperbacks, so the contents of the 2 trades make up this particular compendium. Here you have Green Lantern, the Rayner Rising Compendium. And I'm just going to go ahead and point out the obvious. Yes, compendium is misspelled here on the spine. But, I mean, we've seen that happen from Marvel and DC and other companies, too. It's not the first time. Marz, Banks, Tanghal, and Mattson, and the DC logo. And, of course, this image of Kyle there. And Kyle knocking out Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan, of course, the parallax during this particular shot right here. And then the back of the book right here. One thing I wanted to point out about the book is that it doesn't have like a glossy finish or semi-gloss to it on the actual cover here. It is a soft cover, just like all of the compendiums. But yeah, it doesn't have a glossy finish to it. It's pretty interesting, considering the trades that have a glossy finish. As a matter of fact, here, it's these 2 trades that make up this particular compendium. You can probably tell from the glare on the lights here that these have a glossy finish, whereas this doesn't. So yes, both of these make up this particular compendium right there. The compendium retails for $59.99. So we're going to open this up and take a nostalgic trip with me, as Kyle is my favorite Green Lantern. Talk about the stories collected in here, and of course show off the artwork, and talk about the contents, and then the build of the compendium. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at this. I will say I am going to be talking about some spoilers as to how Kyle Rayner became the Green Lantern, then the tragedy of Hal Jordan. But I don't know. I just think that's been out there for so long that a lot of people know that story already. And to get into this, I feel like I have to talk about it. So I guess some spoilers going into it. And if you don't want to stick around for the spoilers, this is what the binding looks like, because it is glued binding and it is a soft cover. And here's the way that it lays over right here. So there is a little bit of course, gutter loss in here. It'll want to close on you because you are talking about a soft cover. All right, let's go ahead and crack it open. Here's your Rayner Rising Compendium. And all the credits, of course, Ron Marz taking over the Green Lantern book and forever changing it. But you also have the writings of Bo Smith and Marv Wolfman, Tom Payer. You have the art of Darryl Banks, who actually co-created Kyle Rayner. Also Bill Willingham, Jason Armstrong, and Andy Smith, and Mitch Bird, just to name a few of the pencilers, the inkers. Romeo Tanghal, Terry Austin, and Rich Rankin. Your colorist, Steve Mattson, and Joshua Myers, and Anthony Tolan. And then your letters, Albert de Guzman and Bob Pinaja as the main letters. And you do get a table of contents here, telling you where you're going to find each of these stories. And not only that, but when it originally came out. 1994, my gosh, has it been that long? I guess it's almost been 30 years, huh? But yes, it kicks off with Emerald Twilight Part 1. So containing the stories from Green Lantern number 0, and then 48 through 65, Rebels 94 number 1, New Titans 116 and 117, 124 and 125, Guy Gardner Warrior 27 and 28, Dark Stars 34, and Damage 16. So it's got that big crossover, which is, I think it's the the Siege crossover. Yeah, the Siege of Jaram. So that's got that big intergalactic crossover. So we kick it off with Hal Jordan with a broken arm after this huge battle. And Ron Marz, this is his first issue. Yeah, he steps in, takes over the Green Lantern book, and his goal, because he was hired by the editor, is to pretty much do away with the character of Hal Jordan and bring in some new blood with Kyle Rayner. Do away with the Green Lantern Corps, get rid of all the mythos, because we're starting over anew, we need new readership, and here we are. Now, of course, what I'm about to tell you, if you don't know, pissed off a lot of old fans of Hal Jordan. So in the previous issues, what had happened was this big crossover with Superman, the return of Superman after the death of Superman and the reign of Superman, where Cyborg Superman ended up destroying Coast City, which is the city where Hal Jordan lived. And it just destroyed everything, all of the trees, the buildings, but more importantly, the people. So Hal is sitting there in the remains of the city, and his ring is using his subconscious to bring in his father, to give him a speech. He relives his father's death. And then he sees his mother, a vision of his mother here. Again, the ring using his subconscious. Then he realizes that he can wield the ring to recreate life in Coast City. So what he does is he recreates everybody, in his ex-girlfriend, and he almost feels like he's got this power to be God. Not a God, God. If you look at that right there, this Christ-like picture right there. But yes, he runs into his old girlfriend, Jennifer, who he himself is creating. So this is very, very interesting to have a conversation with his dead girlfriend, talking about the times they had and why he was so stupid to leave. So what ends up happening is that the Guardians find out about this through the means of the Green Lantern ring. It has to be recharged. So he has to go and charge it. When the Guardians find out about this, they're like, hey, you're breaking the oath. Like, this is one of the rules you can't do. You can't kill, and you definitely can't bring people back from the dead like this. So he snaps, and he's like, you know what? I'm coming to Oa, and I'm going to get all this power so I don't have to recharge the battery again. And then we get a little cameo of Kyle Rayner and Alexa DeWitt right there. And this is probably one of the best covers Daryl Banks did of Hal Jordan just snapping. And just out of nowhere, he snaps. Now, of course, he's grieving, he's dealing with loss, and he has the ability to bring these people back. But because of the Guardians, they're not letting him, so they send out the Green Lantern Corps to stop him. So here he fights friends. Here he ends up killing some of his friends, and you can find out who. And then we get to issue number 50. And issue number 50 is probably one of the most iconic moments in Green Lantern history. And we're only 3 issues in, and we still haven't talked about Kyle Rayner, which we'll get to in a minute, other than that little cameo. He gets to fight Sinestro. The Guardians have summoned Sinestro, and what ends up happening, again, a little bit of spoilers, well, he picks up Sinestro and shows the Guardians that he means business. He cracks his neck. I mean, he had just killed his friend, so what makes the freaking Guardians think that he's going to stop? So they send his best friend out there. They send Kilowog, who Hal has already taken his ring. He's beaten him in combat, and he kills Kilowog. Now, you may be confused as to, wait a second, some of these characters are still alive. Yes, well, a lot has happened in Green Lantern, and some of these characters came back during the Kyle Rayner era by Judd Winnick. So what he does is he enters the lantern. This is where all the Green Lantern charge their lanterns, this big giant lantern on Oa, and it blows up, killing the Guardians, and he comes out a new character. He doesn't need to recharge the ring. He is now Parallax. But there is one Guardian left, the last hope of Oa and all of the galaxy, and that is Ganthet. And Ganthet comes to Earth, and he sees this young artist named Kyle Rayner, gives him the ring, and that's all she wrote. And thus begins the saga of Kyle Rayner. Now, I'm not going to go into much detail about him becoming a Green Lantern. He does suffer a big loss at the hands of Major Force. It's probably something everybody's familiar with, even new to comics, where something happens horribly to Alexa DeWitt. So much so that Gail Simone started a website dedicated to justice for her character. And it happens in this issue right here, number 54. You can find out exactly what that is. Now, Kyle does, he's new. He's kind of like your Ultimate Spider-Man Peter Parker, if I can make that kind of comparison, because he's new to being a superhero. He's an artist, so he can create at will what, out of his head, what he wants. But he still needs some training, and he's learning through different people, including Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. He does eventually get to fight the Parallax, Hal Jordan, the original Green Lantern. And this happens through the pages of Green Lantern Zero, which happens in the aftermath of Zero Hour, and something big happens to Hal Jordan through those pages. But those aren't collected in here. And it's like one mess after another. He gets kidnapped by the rebels. He ends up joining the Teen Titans, but first has to fight them because he is being manipulated. And this is really cute. I actually enjoyed this part. He does start building a relationship with one particular Teen Titan, and that is Donna Troy. Now, during this time, Donna Troy, oh my goodness, that's a whole nother episode. Who is Donna Troy? She's with the Dark Stars, so she's part of the Dark Stars team. And during this time, we have Impulse as part of the team, Arsenal, and Mirage, and Terra. Those are your Teen Titans. And a lot of this features Kyle with the characters of the Teen Titans. So get used to a little bit of that. Get used to a lot of cameos. But it's cool because he's the new kid on the block. He's learning to use his powers. He's fighting big-name villains. He's already fought Hal Jordan. And now he's part of this team because the team needs a Green Lantern. And like I said, him and Donna get really close through these issues. Guy Gardner and him have a big team up because they had a team up in Zero Hour, which again is not collected in here. But when they team up, it's all about the return of this character right there, Major Force. So like I said, that's something horrible to Alexa DeWitt. And something very similar happens here, so much so that it makes Guy Gardner snap. And you can find out the ending of this. It's one of those, I've got all this power and we can stop this guy for good, but I have to make this horrible decision moments between Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner. And you can see what separates them from each other. We get the return of Hal Jordan in the Parallax View, and it's a very interesting return because he wants his Green Lantern ring back, and how exactly is he back? And is Kyle Rayner going to need the help of the Teen Titans, or is he going to need some bigger A-list characters to come and help him, like the Justice League? And then the book ends with the 5-part intergalactic crossover here, and it's basically the Teen Titans, but it's the Siege of Zaycharam. And it's a 5-part crossover between the Teen Titans and also Dark Stars and Damage and, of course, Green Lantern. And there's something that happens here. There's a connection between Supergirl, and keep in mind this is before the relaunch of Supergirl. I know gets a little bit confusing. During the Batman and Superman era of Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness, this is the Peter David Supergirl Matrix. Now, there are no extras in the back. It's just pretty much the cover right there, the end cover. And that's pretty much it. So I did want to showcase some of the artwork in here, and this is a really dark story. I mean, there's some really good stories in here. And this is one that gets drowned again, and the 90s are awful, but there's really good stories from the 90s that happen. This is the story of Dara, who used to be a Green Lantern. And now, she meets Kyle, and she steals his Green Lantern ring. But, well, like I said, that one is a dark story. It's a powerful story, I will say that. And Kyle's my Green Lantern. Because of the stories found through these pages, because of his will, because of his part in the JLA when Grant Morrison was writing that book, I really learned to like Kyle. When I left comics, Kyle was Green Lantern and Hal Jordan was evil, right? Parallax. Final Night hadn't happened yet. When I came back to comics, it was really nice to see Kyle still be the Green Lantern. And then right around the corner, we had Hal Jordan Rebirth, which, of course, now Hal Jordan is Green Lantern once again. But there was this whole thing that I went back and got a bunch of trade paperbacks and some of the missing single issues that weren't collected in trade, because there's a ton that were not, especially during that Ron Mars, towards the end of his run, and Judd Winnick era, like the whole Power of Ion and Brian K. Vaughan's story. But I just learned to really like the dude. And I'm going to be honest with you all. I didn't even know my dude was half Latino until like I came back to comics when people were talking about him being half Latino, and I was like, what? He is? I think I was like in 2006 and 7 when I found out. Not that it matters, because, you know, to me growing up, I didn't have to have somebody look like me in order for me to look up to them. That's why Uncle Scrooge is still one of my favorite characters of all time. But I think that's all I will say about this. It's got some wonderful stories. This is the type of artwork, so, you know, it's definitely 90s. So if it's not for you, well, all I can say is you're really missing out, because there's some great stories in here. 704 pages, and the book retails for $59.99. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this compendium, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you have already picked it up, if you have the original trades, if you're upgrading, and what you think of the contents in here. And if you've never read it, you're going in blind, let me know all those comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.